live here. Hey, everybody. I'd like just to welcome everybody to the Native Wellness Power Hour.
You read it? You know it's not expired.
Well, initially they said it did, but when we had one that I think they expired June of 2021. But
Something expired, so we got another link coming on. Hey, anyways, this is the Native Wellness Power Hour, and it's good to hear. Good to see you, everybody. This is sponsored by the Noise Foundation and NICWA, just to allow us to bring these to the people and bring it out there. And so it's really good to be here. We're with the Native Wellness Institute, and we're a nonprofit organization that our purpose is to bring and keep our ancestral wisdoms alive and bring it to the people. And to heal. And so it's today or this week we're working and addressing the issue on missing and murdered Indigenous women and the healing and to stop the abuse, the violence against women, and the hurt and harm. And again, it's all focused off of healing. And so today, and if you don't know me, my name is Johon Tagaban. And we'll get started here with some we got some guests here. We got Lyle James, Johon, Atikinson, and Mike Duncan here. And so it's good to see you guys. Hey, brothers.
Hello.
So as we get started here, I just want to sing a quick song just to get us started in a good way. And what I ask people too is who are out there viewing, when I'm singing the song, just bring to mind the spirit of your ancestors, the land of your ancestors. What does that look like, and how is that? And as we come to this time together here, become same mind, body, and spirit. And to be honest with you, this is also helping me calm my spirit and get grounded on this moment, this hour that we're supposed to spend together. And so thank you all. So I thank you for being here. And this hour, we're going to talk with men on male engagement and to stop the sexual assaults against women, to address missing and murdered Indigenous women as well. So as we go, how about you guys just introduce yourselves and as we're out here. Mike, tell us who you are, brother.
Oh. Good afternoon, Gene. Just really excited to be here. First off, my name is Mike Duncan. I'm before anything else, I'm a father of 5, and I have 3 boys, 2 girls. I'm also an enrolled member of Round Valley Indian Tribes here in Northern California. I currently live in Woodland, California. I'm also the executive director of Native Dads Network, which is in Sacramento, California. And we've been working with a men's program and a family program since 2010. And so I'm really excited to be here. This journey of working on fatherhood and motherhood, but work mostly on fatherhood and working with the men in our community in Northern California here has been something that we have a lot of passion for. We've been doing, and we're touching on a bunch of different things. When it first kind of began, it just really started off working with fathers and within just a specific program, but now it's branched out to all these different things: historical trauma, relationships, addressing family violence and abuse. And, those are the things that, again, that when we were talking about MMIW, it can kind of led us to this as well, and kind of focusing, our attention to this, as far as our women and how we are, and what was our part as men, as in the community. What are we doing to help our women so they could grow and become healthy as well and feel protected? So we've been working hard. And so, I just wanted to say hi to everybody that's out there watching, and I'm glad you guys tuned in today. And I hope we have a good positive message for you guys.
I think, brother. Hey, Lyle. How you doing, brother?
Okay. Doing good. Ikhatu sa klinik energie kleish ka kwantan nakatati putita ka coke no kwan sati akhna ka hiti coke no kwan ka pasta ani ka ya akhish ko has ka kan kian takat aktin han kunarchish khun kian ka kan kian kan kian sutskan simsien luang gode na kalanidin ya jinkat kay dushut hak wujin jagaktane takat skun wan ako su jinkat kay dushut hak wujin jagaktane ha kay wu shtiin. So my name that I prefer to go by is Chi Tleish, and this is the name that was given to me by my great grandfather, who I got to know for a few years of my life. And when I was born, Chi Tleish was the name that was given to me. I am Kagwantan Eagle Wolf from Koknuwu Gross Fort, and that's where my uncle's land is. I am grandchild of Atikinson. Khishas Kiksadi. My father's people are Kiksadi. My in-laws, my wife is Kanakhadi. She's also Simsien. I said in Simsien, it makes me happy to see my in-laws here. And I work in the school district for the last 16 years, and definitely love what I get to do with the students, to do my role as an uncle to the students. And my wife and I, we have a dance group, and we've actually had the dance group for about 16 years as well. And we do the same thing with our dance group as we work to show and set that standard of how men should present themselves to show healthy relationships, not only just to our wives, but to myself as well, and then to our kids. So, Gunachish for sharing what you shared, Mike, because that's that title of father, that title of uncle, the title of a man is a very important title to us, because it's something that grounds us as and it's something that I feel like we should really set the standard high, because if we don't, then that kind of diminishes how we relate to our opposites. Chish.
Chish. Johon.
Johon Ekohak, Atikinson, DYU, Lakibu, Deptegu, Tutkit Kahaki, Simsan Nation, Pawnee Nation. Luam Godu, Amasa, Delwan. Hello, my name is Johon Ekohak Atikinson. I am of the Wolf Clan from the Simsian Nation. I am of the Pawnee Nation. and I'm very happy to be here. And just want to say I'm really honored to be able to share some words with Native Wellness and this panel here. I'm from Metlakatla, Alaska, in southeast Alaska. It's the only reservation in the entire state of Alaska. And here in my village, there's about 1,500 people, and there's no roads to and from my small community. So if you want to come in or out, you gotta fly on a small float plane or get a boat. I've been a counselor in my community, working primarily with the youth for about 6 years now. I'm the president of the nonprofit Lawaida. Lawaida in my Tsimshian language translates to pull together. And through our nonprofit, we have many organizations many programs that focus on spreading cultural wellness to the youth, the adults, and the elders. We have a children's dance troupe where we promote our language, we promote our culture and our songs, and the youth that are involved in our nonprofit. They harvest our traditional foods, and they prepare foods for our elders, and our nonprofit is always evolving and adapting to these changing times.
So right on. Hey, thanks, guys. And I brought you on, all three of you on, just because I admire the work you are and who you are as human beings and as men, and I hold each of you up highly in that good place, and much respect to you. So my question is with male engagement, with men doing this work. Why do men need to get involved? Why do men need to get involved to stop the violence against women, the abuse, the hurt and harm in our communities and with our families and specifically against women? In order to do this, why do men need to get involved? Who would like to take that on right first?
I think that we need to get involved because there's too many generations of sisters, aunties, mothers, grandmothers who have been impacted by what society has taught us, that men can't be men if you don't do this or if you don't do that. And it's starting to, it's pretty sad when we see men or guys. I struggle with saying men to those that do harm, because to me, what a man is somebody who is not afraid to talk about these hard topics. And is not afraid to stand up for these hard topics, which shouldn't be a hard topic, because we should be able to stand up for our women, no matter, because it's something that should be right, and it should be part of our norm to not be afraid to stand up for our women. And just recently I saw something and there was a response to it where somebody who was viewed as a leader, an up-and-coming leader, and harmed two young ladies, which
I saw that too. Was
pretty disgusting to see. And seeing how it impacts the women in our society, it puts knots in my stomach to see that there and hear about it, because all the women in our communities are worth fighting for, no matter what age. So this is why I stand up. I have, for those that don't know me, I have 8 sisters. And my sisters, my mother, she has 12 siblings. Half of them were adopted, but they were all siblings. And a majority of the siblings were all females as well. And my sisters have been impacted by sexual assault or rape. Same with my mother's siblings. And it's something that is impacting one generation after the next. And I have to, when I think about that I think this is going to stop with me. I'm going to be the one to not be quiet about this shit because my sisters, my mother, my aunties, my wife, my daughter, my nieces, they're all worth fighting for. They're all worth standing up for. And for those that may think that hurting somebody will make them a man, well, sorry, you're wrong. That just makes you a monster. That doesn't make you a man. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing the work that I do, is so that I can set that example, hopefully set that example of what a man should be doing. Thank you for listening.
I want to add on what you said, Lyle. You know, you made a really great statement. So first of all, thank you for sharing those words. You know, and Doix, and thank you all for everybody doing this work. You know, thank you to all the women and all the men that are leading this fight. You know, it's you know, my heart is forever grateful. You know, Luam Godu. You know, there's no words. You know, I just want to add on the statement that you said that you hit it right on. You know, it shouldn't be difficult for us men to be able to speak up. You know, it should not be difficult for us men to take a stand, you know, to keep each other safe, because we've always protected, we've always provided, we've always been that as our role for over 10,000 years, 10,000 years plus. We have kept our communities, we've thrived in this land for so long. And up until just recently, in this little sliver of time when everything was taken away, you know, through everything that our grandparents have went through, you know, the role that all of us have honored since time immemorial was also taken away, you know, and it's unlearning what was taught in these last couple generations, and acknowledging that us as men, that we have a lot to learn. You know, we have a lot to do, and us as men need to fill that role again and honor us as fathers, as uncles, as brothers, you know, to keep our family safe. And it's just not our family, but our communities, because everything that we do in our community, whether it's someone who you're related to or not related to, it affects your community, you know, and just bringing those roles back, bringing that responsibility back, you know, and having those words being said, having them heard, having them being taught, you know, is responsibility. You know, when I first got into this work about 6 years ago, you know, those were all new words to me. You know, responsibility, you know, honoring your roles. And I've been very, very grateful for my mother, Hilaire Echohawk. You know, she has really, my whole entire life, she has been planting seeds in my mind, you know, what respect is, what it means to respect myself, you know. But because of the society that we are living in, you know, and on what is being taught to be a man, you know, there's I think a time in most of our lives where we were acting a fool, you know, where we were trying to find ourselves, you know, and then, but through statements like that, and through the people who are leading this fight, you know, sharing that knowledge, and they're undoing what was done, and they're bringing back that balance, that we've always had since time immemorial. So thank you for sharing those words, Lyle. They're very powerful.
Oh, Gunachish. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Mike, what are your thoughts?
Just really piggybacking on both of them. What I know, I've been working with men for the last since 2009, I believe. I'm doing this fatherhood program, and here, and I've worked over a few hundred men, and coming out of prison, addiction, in different places, even again abuse. Men coming in our program as abusers. One thing that I just want to focus on, because this is where sometimes we, because we're healing as well. And part of healing, I believe, this is from the beginning, is really just understanding, like, where did all this come from colonization, boarding schools, and other things that were taught in our communities, dismantling our culture. Again, what is the instructions to being a man, a warrior? Those things are in some communities, or a lot of our communities, lost. And so, unfortunately, who gets the bad end of the stick is the women, because again, we have, and I tell this to all my groups all the time, man, as men, we have so far to go to prove ourselves again. There's so much we still have to do. Even though I'm doing good, and you brothers, we still have a lot to do to build the trust to our women, And so, that's a challenge for us. That's a challenge. That's why we're doing this program right here, is because we want to make sure that we get a message out there, that there are men that are getting well, that are putting the message out, that are doing the thing that we do to make sure that our future generations don't have to go through what our past generations gone through. We have the data, we have the stories, we have things that have been told over and over again what we're doing wrong, and what we're trying to do is trying to change that narrative going forward. You know what I mean? And doing that, like we talk about intergenerational trauma, what we're trying to connect is intergenerational healing. Intergenerational healing, and that's what we're doing by sending a positive message. And we are coming up here is because I'll be honest with you, Gene, I know we talked a little bit earlier, is that growing up as a man, I was one of those men. I was one of those men that, talked negative about women, because that's what I was taught. That's what I was shown in my community by family members, by people in my community showed me those things. And because I didn't know what abuse was. But once I became clean and sober, and I've been clean and sober 13 years, and once I became going to school, and I started reading and understand what abuse was, man, I realized that I was an abuser. I was an abuser and didn't even know I was an abuser. And I share that because I want people to know that, if you start to understand what those things are, what is mental, emotional, physical, or even spiritual, when you break down people's spirit, that people can heal. I want women to know that men can heal and see something different. I want other men to know that, hey, you know what? And it wasn't easy. It was about setting my mind, and I'll be honest, this is what kind of happened to me. It was about having daughters. And somebody told me at the beginning of my recovery, when I started walking that red road, somebody said, your daughter's going to be with somebody like you. And I said, oh, crap. That ain't going to work. And I started changing my ways. I started looking at all things. And I said, I need to change for my daughter to see what a healthy man is, because that is so important. And then it goes outwards, And I know other men believe that too, but there is some fear. There is some fear in our communities to be the one that stands up and says, you know what, that's not okay anymore. I don't know exactly positively why there's not enough men that are, maybe we're more feel like we could be stoic, stand in the background, or why we can't stand up to the bully in our communities, or the ones that are openly doing it to the women in our communities, and we kind of see it, we kind of ignore it. But that time has to change now. We're the ones that have to make that change. And I respect you, Jim, because we went and did a bunch of things with a Native Wellness Institute over in San Diego and Reno, and you do this choose to respect thing, and what you make all the men do after our little meeting or our group, you make a stand in front of the women and make that pledge that we're going to make sure that we do our part to make sure they're safe. And I'll be honest, I've held accountable to that. I've been out here in the community, and I remember me saying it out loud because I'm a person of integrity, and so I wanted to make sure that I honor you, not only you, the women, and my words, that I honor that words by standing behind what I say. So.
Going to cheers. Thank you. Yeah. One of my my pledge and my declaration, what I made, my thing is like I'm going to continue this work to work with men to help our women to keep our women safe in our communities. Thank for all your words. Mike, you talked about healing, man. You talked about healing in that. So what do men need to do? What are those steps that they need to heal? Maybe just a couple things. What do they need to do?
And then thirdly, man, this is the thing. I think one of the things that when we start to project what men are, what a man is, and I'm just real quickly, I know that we got other speakers on here, is that, it's really opening your heart, because the power of love, the power of forgiveness, the power of goodness is something that we all need to embrace and make sure that we acknowledge that those things are power. It's not weakness. A lot of times we're scared of that darkness or that destroyer or that devil, that dark thing that's out there, that dark spirit. But that thing is not power compared to Creator and the goodness that we have. You know what I mean? So sharing those things and telling men to trust that, and for you, so you can heal. I mean, don't all us men, or don't all of us acknowledge that we want to be good ancestors, or we want to be good community members. We want to make sure that our family lives forever in a good way. I mean, we start to make men think, that it's not just about you. It's about these future generations. And that's the important thing, And so you have to come to a place of understanding and not judgment, because again, like I said, for me, I have to understand that I've been there. I know what it feels like to be in prison or being behind the walls and visiting my kids and in addiction. I know what those things are like, So I know that also what changed my life was my babies, my kids growing up and wanting to be part of their lives and wanting to show them the right way as well. And it took someone to tell me they love me, to believe in me, for me to want to change. And so that's what I always tell people, to soften your heart a little bit. You don't have to believe. That's a belief system. Get away from that, and that's what I suggest to people. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Lyle, how do you say your Tlingit name again?
Atikinson. Atikinson is a woman's name, and Ish means father of. So Atikinson, father of Atikinson.
And what are your thoughts on what do men need to do to heal?
We need to shut up and listen. For real.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we have all the answers, and sometimes we just need to sit back and listen to the women. And then after we listen, we also need to follow through and by leading by example. Exactly what we're doing today is we listen to a lot of the women who are complaining, or not complaining, who are standing up for their rights to not be violated. And we're taking action by speaking out. Exactly what we're doing. We need to have more men do this. Those that know and respect their families need to stand up and say enough is enough. We all know right from wrong. Speaking as somebody who has been violated growing up, sexually assaulted, it does take a toll on you. And at times, I tried proving myself I'm a man, but it's not. We all have that choice to make. And my choice was to always sit back and listen to my sisters after they beat me up and say, shut up and listen. But that's something we all need to do, is we need to just not have all the answers.
Ooh, I like that.
Listen to our sisters, listen to our aunts, listen to our mothers, and say, this is how it impacts me. Because that's what they're telling us. This is how it impacts me. This is where it brings me. And I don't like the way it brings me to this area in my life, because that is part of a life that was involuntarily taken. And knowing how it impacted my sisters or my relatives who have been sexually assaulted. It's not something that they should just get over, because I know that's a lot of guys, that's a response. Oh, just get over it.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's something you can't just get over. One moment of that thing that happened to them will live with them forever.
It's a lifetime.
And just because, it's just because a guy thinks that they can do it to them, they say, get over it. It's not that easy. Speaking from experience, that's something I'll never get over, because that person took a moment of my life away from me, and it's gonna be in my mind forever. It's not a fun thing to relive, but it's something that I'm healing from. It's something that it's gonna take a while, and we have to understand that our sisters and our aunties and our nieces and our moms, it's going to take a while for them to heal from that, because that's a scar that they'll always have forever.
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your story. Good night, Chish. Johon, how are we going to heal?
You know, there's a couple statements to me already that are going to forever be with me. You know, open up your heart. You know, thank you for sharing that. You know, and shut up and listen. That's real. You know, it's being able to listen and open up yourself, where when you listen, you want to learn. You know, and for example, you know, before when I started my day, I actually gave my mom a call. You know, I called her for advice. You know, I called a woman in my life for advice. You know, because the way that it's always been, you know, the women have always been leading this fight in domestic violence. You know, when we go to our gatherings, when we go to our conferences, you know, when we go to, no matter what it is, when it's pertaining to these hard issues and these conversations that we need to have, it's always over 80% women and leading this fight. So us as men, we need to step it up, you know. But in order for us to do that, you know, we have to have these hard conversations. We have to be having these topics that we're having now, and acknowledge that we do need to shut up and listen. That we do need to open up our heart, soften up our heart, you know, and be willing to feel our feelings, feel our emotions. You know, as a man, you know, being here in Alaska, you know, I grew up in the fishing industry. You know, I did multiple years crab fishing. You know, and being out in that lifestyle, you live your life with some of the most toxic minds of how a man could think. You know, it's machoism. You know, it's just every day, you know. And then so being able to acknowledge that that's not what I want from my family, you know, and just saying those words, you know. But a lot of times when after men take that first step, they don't really know what to do. We all want the best for our families. We all want the best for our mothers, our sisters, our everybody in our family, but sometimes we don't know what to do, and we're not too sure if we have the right words. But knowing that and acknowledging that, like, I don't have all the right words, so seeking advice, shutting up and listening, you know, taking that, softening your heart and feeling the emotions and not suppressing them, because that's how society has always taught us as men to always suppress our emotions, and to always have this image of where we're always tough, you know, where we're not allowed to cry, you know. And shoot, like, you know, last night I cried twice, you know, one in the morning time, and I was very grateful to have my wife there to, you know, to hug me. And last night, when I was in a group with Jean, I had tears come down my eyes, you know. And being able to take that step and be okay with that, it took a lot. You know, it definitely took a lot, and having these hard conversations and with saying the words that need to be said, because I think deep down in all of us, we know what's right. We know what we want to do. And if we want to be able to take those next steps, you know, we have to be willing to learn. We have to be willing to seek advice. You know, like I'm probably going to call my mom tomorrow for advice, you know. So thank you for sharing those words. You know, it's very, I'll always remember them.
Going to choose. Yeah, we had a great group last night. We have a men's support group up in Alaska. And we got around talking about having courage. And in order to have courage, you need to be vulnerable. That's what we were talking about, our vulnerability. Having the courage just to share our stories. To share our stories, you know, and even to weep, you know, and show those emotions and show those tears. You know, Johon, I watched this video. You know, oftentimes I got into this work too when I was young. I told when my hair was black to people, but the question was always like with the women was like, where are the men? Where are the men in this? You know, and we're here to say we're here. We're working to get more men involved. But I heard you say something on a video you shared with me. I watched it this morning, Johon, about we need to show up. We just need to show up and just be present. And again, we may not have all the answers, but we want to make a difference. But we got to show up and be present to that. You know. So,
Can I say one thing, Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, first of all, before I go, and I know we probably got a few minutes left. I know there's some other people, I think Gunner's on, but I just wanted to use this platform again, especially this about MMIW. We have a couple women. One's from my reservation, Round Valley Indian Reservation. It's Khadijah Britton. I want to make sure I say her name, and that I guess my family that's watching right now, and the other community members up in Northern California, you know, and make sure that we mention her name, Khadijah Britton, and she's still missing. She's been missing for almost 2 years now, over 2 years now, and so the family, you know, is still you know, not giving up and want to make sure that they bring her home. The other one is Nicole Smith. She's from Point Arena Reservation. It's up on the coast. And she was murdered, and the investigation was never picked up. And so that is something that's still ongoing. I guess with the law enforcement in that area, that ain't really doing anything too much. And those are the things that, you know, we have to. And this is real quick: is that the law enforcement ain't really doing much for us either. You know, and I always tell the men, and this we have to be the ones that protect our women. We have to be the ones because the government. Law enforcement is not helping. They're standing aside, allowing things to happen in our community. People come in, you know, outsiders come in and harm our women. It's not okay anymore. You know, and those are the things that we have to, like I said, we have to stand up, not just on social media, but real life and in person. We see something, we know something, we got to keep the silence. We got to break the silence, man. We got to talk, you know what I mean? And it's not about like the mentality of like prisoner or like, don't be a snitch or nothing like that. We got to protect our people. And if we're not doing that, we're doing our communities a disservice. And that's the bottom line.
Right on, brother.
And so, you know, this is something, like I said, I want to make sure that I mention that before like I said, before they switch over and I kind of lose that. But I wanted to mention those two names specifically, and then so that way, you know, I mean, their names can continue to be, you know, people. If somebody knows something, they'll speak up and break the silence.
Right on, man. So, Johon, who's your sister?
Excuse me?
Yeah, Johon, you were talking about last night. You talked about your sister. Was that your sister?
Yeah. You know, so with the missing and murdered Indigenous woman, you know, I want
to.
You go on.
You know, it was very emotional, you know, because we do not want any ill and any of our sisters to ever be hurt. You know, so I just want everybody to be able to overcome and for all the men to be able to take the steps to heal, you know, to be able to honor our role, because we all want our sisters to be safe, you know. And I want to, you know, Shelly Hudson, you know, she was a woman who was a big part of my life, you know, and she's no longer here as well. You know, she and her case is still unsolved. You know, but I want to comment on a statement that you made earlier, you know, on for men to show up. You know, that statement, it was actually when I was attending a men's gathering in Juneau. Lyle and my cousin Colleen were a big part of coordinating that and making sure everything was going the way it should, you know, that all the men were learning what they needed to learn and be able to talk about the things that needed to talk about to heal, you know. And I got that from her, you know, from another woman in my family, you know, and it was what can men do? Show up. Even if you don't have the right words, you know, even if you don't know what to say, show up. Because there's going to be men there that can teach you, and we have to be able to open our hearts, open our minds, and willing to learn, you know. So just show up, just keep on showing up, ask those questions, and say it. Say to your family, say to yourself when you look in the mirror that I want to heal, I want to overcome, and I want to take the steps necessary to make sure that everybody in my community and in Indian country is safe.
Oh,
Sheesh.
Ish. Any last words or any response?
Sheesh. Tekatihan. Wushkana Hodia di that talk has has hatla has Wushkana Hodia di Wuchin Jigakane has to yes. Aqua has has to watching the Gakane Akusti Takat has to Shakoti Kunach has to Latin at Yachiti has to work like I watching the Gakane Akusti Yachtakat Kahas to all of you here, to all the men who are standing up, who are visiting and not being afraid to use a tool that our grandparents gave to us, which is our voice and our courage to stand up for our moms, our aunties, our sisters, our nieces, our grandmothers. Thank you for taking the time to use this tool. We shouldn't have any missing and murdered Indigenous women, period. This is something that we shouldn't be afraid to talk about. And this is something that where those that say, oh, just get over it. Well, no, I'm going to stand in your face. I'm going to talk about it because you don't understand how it impacts that family, our community, And thank you for giving this time to us to talk about it. And for everybody who may be watching at this moment, thank you for listening to our words, because without your ears, without you taking the time to listen, our aunties, our nieces, our mom, and our grandmothers. This is what I want to say to all of you who are listening. You're all amazing. To all the women who are listening, you are precious and you are worth fighting for. You are worth standing up for. And to all the missing and murdered Indigenous women, we will not forget what has happened to you. Your stories will not be forgotten. And for that, we will never be quiet. We will always find this kind of platform to stand up and say, enough is enough. Because that number that we see in our nation, it shouldn't exist at all. To all my relatives, stand up with courage, with strength. Don't be afraid to do this. They are worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. Thank you for listening.
Konachish. So, thank you, my brothers, my friends. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for the work that you do, Konachish. And I'd like to continue this conversation. If you're willing to come on again some other time, and just to continue this conversation. And it doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop here. It continues on.
Yes, what?
So with that, my brothers, my hands up to you. Gonna cheers in a way that I can support you, and much love to all three of you. Be well, be safe.
Duncan.
Thank you. So we have a couple other guests who are going to be coming on here, and just take a little bit of time, and thank you so much. We got Gunner. We got Gunner here, and is Tomas going to join us?
Hey, Gene.
There he is. Hey, Gene. What's up,
Hey, Gunner.
Tomas?
How you doing, brother?
Tomas, I can see Gunner, but I don't see Tomas on here. But it's Tomas. Are you on there, brother?
I'm on. Let me see 1 second. Can you hear me, Gunner?
What we got you here?
Yeah,
Gunner,
I can hear you.
introduce yourself, brother.
Okay. How me talk AP? Yushika wachan kapi nape. Chiza below. Akichita wase luta macha below. Hello, my relatives, everybody across Turtle Island. My name is Gunner. I go by Gunner Jewel, but Gunner Krogman. I'm Shichangu Lakota from the Rosebud Sioux tribe, and that's where I'm coming live from right now, and happy to be on.
Right on. Hey, it's good to see you, man. Tomas, how you doing, brother?
Good, brother. Thank you for having me be on this live. Geshe, everyone. Hello.
I see him on there, but can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Gene.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Standing by. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, his mic's muted.
Oh, let me see.
You look good though. I see you on there.
Hey.
I can hear Tomas, Jin.
Oh, you can hear me?
Okay, there he is.
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
I can't hear you though, brother.
Oh,
You can hear him?
But you can hear me, right, Gunner?
Hey,
Yes.
Introduce yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I hope everyone else can hear too. Geshe, hello. My name is Tomas Carmelo Amaya. I am Yoeme and Ashri on my mom's side and Raramuri on my dad's side. I'm currently in Phoenix, Arizona, which is occupied O'odham territory. And this is a really special live for me to be here and share space with you all. And I appreciate all the previous guests that were on, and my brother Gunnar here, and Gene especially. I'm honored and I'm blessed to be here to hold this space, to create the space for healing.
So, so what's the work? Tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Okay. So some of the work that I do, some of you might know me from, I make music, singer, songwriter, producer, and do a lot of work with my art and my music and travel that way. But here at home, I work for a program called Chichangu MVP program, and it's a advocacy program through White Buff Calf Women's Society, and we respond to male survivors of violence. So grant funded program, but we're really just trying to create the framework, moving forward with working with the young males 10 to 18 years old, but also encouraging adult males to step up and sort of uncling. We're trying to get them to take on that responsibility and those roles so we can really make an impact, and so that's what we're really focused on now, and filling that gap, because a lot of young males they don't call, or they don't report whenever things are happening and whenever they're in a crisis. So we're trying to everything that we're talking about here is kind of eradicate all the stigmas and things that come along with the shaming and those things that were sort of confines us and really suppresses us, as men in a way. So we're trying to be like you, Gene, and the men, and really following that lead. So I appreciate being a part of it and being involved in this work.
Right on, brother. Right on. Tomas.
Thanks, Gunnar, for letting us know the work that you do. We appreciate all your work. Well, I'm a film director, writer, and visual artist. I am the creative director for Indian Country Today. I am a father, a dachu, and I'm really proud of that. It's a blessing to be in this stage of my life of fatherhood, and I'm a father to a baby girl, so that really means a lot to me too, to be able to raise a matriarch with my partner Sierra. And my connection to NWI actually started with my first training was with Gene, and I remember that day. Sierra had talked to me about the Native Wellness Institute, and she invited me to one of the trainings in San Diego. And without telling me much, she literally pushed me into a room. She's like, "This one," and I walk in there, and the chairs are in a circle, and then there's Gene, and he has his drum, and he's like, "Sit down, brother." And it was just like this welcoming feeling, and I felt good. And the workshop was storytelling, and man, I felt supported. And there was matriarchs in there, and there was, man, we were all just sitting there and just sharing our stories, and Gene, you were facilitating and making it so easy for us to open up, to feel okay to express ourselves. And further down the road, I was very blessed to be part of what's called the Indigenous 20-something project, which is a project of the Native Wellness Institute. So I'm one of the ambassadors and co-founders, and it's really important to this work for the protection of our women and our other relatives that are affected by violence and abuse. Because when we gathered this one particular day, it was at the Native Youth Wellness Warrior Camp in Grand Ronde, and thank you, Masi, to that community. Grand Ronde has a great special place in our heart. But there's this 3-day camp that we help run with everyone for the for the youth. And at the very end, after everyone was tired, we still had the energy to meet as peers in our 20s and 30s, and we always say plus or minus. It could be plus or minus 5-10 years, but it was the start of that Indigenous 20 something project, and it's all related because it was a direct expression of us wanting good for our communities, and our women were speaking about the things they wanted to see in the community and how we could help, and vice versa. And it was something that was supposed to take 45 minutes that we had thought we could accomplish in 45 minutes, and it turned into an almost 7-8 hour conversation. And if you watch some of the other lives, you'll hear more of that Indigenous 20 something story. But right now, this is the missing and murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Week, and we're bringing this awareness. And what I want to say is that in this age group where we've identified a gap, where there's youth programs that help you get to a certain point in your healing journey, and then there seems to be programs for adults, there's this gap of where do I go to find someone like Gunner, like someone like Shailene, or Josh or Thosh, where I feel like I'm not being judged, or I feel like I'm being supported in my concerns that I have for my people. And how can we still maintain a level of feeling like we're included, while expressing ourselves as some of the men did, where it's like we maybe weren't exactly proud of certain moments, but now we see it clearly. How can we build from that so that we can keep our community safe? And so I'll stop right there just so we can build more on that conversation. But I-20SP is about that, about filling that gap with all the tools, all the resources that we might be able to express in a very particular way for our age group. And I'm really honored to be here and to have you on this live too, Gunner. We've had some great conversations, even just casually, not part of NWI. And I would say that a lot of those conversations is kind of the work that you do in your community and the organization you are part of, and then NWI's work and all our collective life experience, and us just sharing that brotherhood and stepping up to show up and to put good energy out into the world.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So right on. So as young men, and in your journey as well, what what do you have to say to the younger generation, those younger generations who are coming up? I know it's we speak to the older ones too. You need to get involved, but what is it that you can say to the younger generations, those younger generations of young men who are coming up, who you're coming up to influence now? I mean, I'm being that uncle out there, and but one day, hopefully, I'll be that old guy sitting in the chair, and I'll be going pointing around with my lips going, okay, go over there, go do that, we'll go talk to this, I'll go tell this story over there, but but you're up and coming, and it's good to, as young men yourselves, what is it that that message we need to send out there to those younger men, those younger generations?
I think a lot of what I've been, any knowledge that I've been gaining, I've been taking bits and pieces, and uh, from attending trainings and things. But I feel like I haven't really gotten to a point where I was able to started to gain that knowledge and understanding until I was into my 20s. And so what I try to encourage is just having these types of conversations, and the vocabulary that we use, um, the things that we talk about, the things we encourage, and want to you know encourage our young people. In our case, it's our young men. So we really try to just have these conversations as much as possible, to the point where they're able to reciprocate, those teachings to their younger relatives and things like that. So I feel like, we were talking about vulnerability, and how that coincides with bravery, and we really like to talk about the importance of taking that step to try to listen to our grandpas, try to listen to our uncles and people, these knowledge bearers, whether it's cultural or ancestral traditional knowledge, or just life experience, knowledge from life experiences, and listening. I think there's this it's normal for us to kind of grow up, and we're sort of encapsulated into this one track, and it's a part of not having those mentors and adult role models and things like that. So first of all, I try to be that role model even for my peers. So Tomas was saying there's that gap, and I think it's really because there's a lack of people within our age really taking on those roles. So I try to encourage my friends, and be that person to try to put them in that mind frame where we're able to pull from different people, and different just different thought processes, where we're thinking more with our heart, and we're encouraging to feel, and all those things that we didn't do or we never had growing up. It's still hard for me. It's still hard for me as an adult to constantly pull from those areas, because I'm conflicted with all these things, and I still feel shame, and I still feel embarrassment, and it's hard. It's hard to. So, I guess just as much as possible, I just try to have as much conversation, and I think we're in a time where we have social media. We can share these things, and I think we're on a path where we're doing that, sharing that knowledge, and I just hope it gets at a younger age. People are hitting the point where I did in my 20s, where I was actually taking my grandpa serious, or I was taking my mom serious, and growing up in a single parent home with my mother, even the respect I have for her, came at a later age, and I protected them, in a way, and protected. I wish I was more influential to my friends, but I just didn't. The lack of knowledge. So I just hope that it gets a younger and a younger age. Our younger generations are beginning to understand what violence is, and all these different, how violence can have all these different definitions, and have that self-awareness to know that they're doing more harm to themselves and to others, by not beginning their healing journey at an early age. So there's a lot to it. We're able to respond, a culturally supportive response to the boys who are in crisis and needing things. So another piece of that is meeting those immediate needs for them. They're in crisis, needing clothes, needing shelter, needing hygiene supplies and things like that. And I feel like those that we're able to provide that for, that puts us in a position where we're really getting them to open up, and help them feel seen and valuable. So and then we're able to talk about these things too. So
Right on. Thanks, Gunnar.
yes, sir. Thank you guys for listening.
Tomas, what'd you like to say to these younger generations, younger of men or boys? No,
Mm.
they're in that generation, not even men yet, but they're young boys too.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to say, um, but I want to say first, Elakwa, thank you to the matriarchs in my family, to my mom, to my sisters, to my grandmothers and aunties and cousins. I was taught at a very young age to have that respect. At the same time, our family was not immune to instances of alcoholism and other things that threatened the sacred space of our homes. And as a young boy, I remember I remember this one day when I had gone to the park nearby. I grew up on the west side of Phoenix. I went to this place called Sueño Park, and I looked at the sunset, and it was so beautiful. Um, and at the same time, I carried like this feeling of sadness, and I wondered what that was, and I thought about it, and I was like, what am I doing at such a young age, feeling the sadness? And we could talk about a lot of things of, how these traumas carry through our families, and being a younger person, it's sometimes difficult to internalize these things, and we turn to our teachings, right, and our medicines to help us navigate through these emotions. But I knew that there had been some things that had happened in my family, and I knew that my dad had come from a very rough upbringing. But what I saw him do is really push himself to show his love for my mom. And they would keep these little mementos for themselves, my mom and my dad. And I remember opening up this book. And it was a song book, songs that my dad had written for my mom. And I thought of like kind of the side by side of what I knew about his life and the traumas he went through, but how he pushed through those things and still was able to express love. And I remember taking that little book, and I had a special place for it in my drawer.
Ego Aquan, Ego Aquan.
We don't all have to be artists or poets or songwriters to honor our matriarchs. We can make them a meal. We can listen, like our other brothers were saying. And even these tears that we are taught are water, our first medicine. It communicates a lot. And I'm grateful for people like Eugene and Gunnar and those others that welcome this medicine. And I think of my dad because he has even expressed that it's hard for him to be affectionate sometimes. So he finds his own ways to do it. And as I continued my journey as a young man, my sisters would also tell me things like, one of the ways you can really help kind of change the norm in the sense of how men or how dominant culture treat women is also respect yourself, show respect for yourself, the sacredness in yourself. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And then I thought of how am I respecting myself, but how am I respecting my family? How am I honoring my family and my community? And over time, and I'll skip forward, there's a lot of things that happen as a young man, as I started to fall in love, right, for the first time, and little relationships became more more romantic, and I was trying to develop that part of me, right? And fast forward, and I remember praying to meet someone like my partner, Sierra Begay, who's here in the house with our little baby girl, Hesea. I had gone through relationships that didn't work out, and I look in hindsight and I see where those relationships were not healthy. And when I look at those positive examples of male figures like my father, who again, we look at it holistically. If we look with intent, with good intent, we can see really great examples right around us, and they don't have to be blood related. These could be they could be homies, they could be homies, they could be people that we interact with on a daily basis, and it could be an online interaction too. But these positive behaviors and expressions that are really shifting the paradigm of how we treat our women and honor our matriarchs. And so when I think of where I was when I finally got to know of and meet Sierra, I felt really grateful that I had gone through so much of my healing journey to be ready to love her. And we talked online for about 2 months, 3 months, without ever seeing each other in person. And there's a lot of trust there. We had mutual friends like Dosh and a couple of other people, but not anyone I would talk to too regularly. But we started talking, and real quickly we were just like laughing and having a good time. And some things came up where we were like, there's harder things to talk about, but it just felt so comfortable to do it. And then what was so beautiful about the journey is we met by chance. Like anybody that was at the Ocheti Shakon resistance camp in Standing Rock knows that it was hard to communicate. And I didn't think that I would have the chance to meet Sierra during that time. When I went as a guest and as a relative to show my support, because we know that abuse to the land is directly related to the abuse to our people, and vice versa. And I knew that I had to be there to show my support in a good way. And so I went, and I remember it was one of the harder weekends because some of the water protectors had been attacked by dogs and other means with pepper spray. I had been chopping wood at the time, and someone came and said they needed water, so I ran up there and went to go help the people that needed it right away. Well, that was a big shift in what was happening to our people there. And the next day there was a big prayer circle, and I remember praying and wishing that I would meet Sierra, that I would have the chance to see her. And that was the day after those attacks happened, and all of a sudden Dallas Goldtooth, shout out to him, he goes, "Hey bro, you need to ride back down to camp." And I'm like, I don't know if you got room. He had this big old SUV. It was all maxed out anyway, so I just rode on the side. I get to camp, and not before long, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Sierra, and I'm seeing her for the first time. The first time after talking to her for hours and hours, day after day. And I was just, I don't know, I almost don't have words for it. And there's a kind of funny story there, because she said she felt really nervous. And I was wondering why she went down to tie her shoe, because I think it was already tied. But she said her legs were feeling kind of shaky. So we kind of laugh at that now. But I love you, Sarah, man. What I want to say about this is I led with my heart. I knew that the person that I was falling in love with deserved the love, that I should give the best of myself and continue on the example that my dad and other people in my life had shown, that we could break those cycles. And the things we talked about first were just things that made us laugh. But as we got into some of the traumas, and I didn't even know the full extent of some of them, I had to look at myself and say, how am I going to show up for this person that I love? How will I, how am I going to be if I find things out that my loved ones are healing survivors? How do I do that? What do I do? Do I, do I listen? And a lot of people said that, listen, and so as a visual artist, as an artist in general, I remember just being like, well, this is how I know how to express my love. And there had been an action, a walk from missing and murdered Indigenous women, and there was a quilt that was being made, and I just decided to follow Sierra along to show my support, and that's it. Like, I'm showing up. I'm not prompting anything. I'm here to listen. I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna support you. And that's one of the films that Jean had seen a long time ago, but it's called Native Women on the Front Lines. And I remember having the camera pointed towards Sierra, and when I had it recording, and I didn't say much, but we were on top of one of the hills, which some people called Facebook Hill, right? But we were up there, and before my eyes, to hear Sierra's expression, and if you watch the film, she spoke from this place that I will always carry dear in my heart. And I see it every time on a daily basis where her strength is at. And I saw her in that same energy, in that same space when she gave birth to our baby daughter. Her ability to meditate and to channel those words from our grandmothers, to stand up for herself, to step into her own power. And I was just there to witness and to show love and to give what I could to build up. And so to my young men out there, like I said, you don't have to be poets or writers or filmmakers, but maybe you build something. Maybe you clean something, you do a chore. Maybe you just listen to your sister, to your cousin, to your homegirls. And when we look at these norms that are problematic, call those homies in and have good discussions of why it's problematic and say, kind of, where's that coming from? Let's talk about that. And I'm extending myself to you to say, let's talk about it. If you see something problematic, reach out. We could talk through it. We could see, where things are coming from. And then, like, being here with Jean and Gunnar being musicians, man, there's a beauty of being an artist, a performing artist, and the way that we have that blessing to share space and create moments, to exchange energy, to put out messages. And for those of you that are thinking of doing that, again, have those conversations with us. We could put good music out that you can vibe to, that you can rock to, that you can dance to, you can flow, all these different things. They're not mutually exclusive with honoring our matriarchs. We can have all that and celebrate life and feel good, like next level feel good. It's already happening. And so I just invite you to these conversations time and time again. And I know we're dedicating this week for missing and murdered Indigenous women, but just like Earth Day and other days where we honor matriarchs, it never stops. And that's the beauty of it. And in this wave of a shift in our existence during COVID, I've been able to unlock, I feel, certain parts of my mind and my ability to communicate some of these creative thoughts, because I just feel that that motivation, like and I'm just excited for us to exchange ideas and to build together. So I want to say to all of you, for those of you who have even thought I can do better, I appreciate you. And as you're going deeper into this healing journey, just know that there's support out there from all levels. You know, some of us appear on platforms like this, but sometimes we don't. And we're phone calls away or messages, you know, but we're here. And so thank you guys for allowing me to speak for this amount of time. It's just, there's so much more to say, but Elakwa, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Tomas. Good words, bro.
Dang, no one told me about all my
Tomas.
boogers right here, man.
You're definitely a storyteller,
Hey,
brother.
That's
you
cool.
are, bro, man. Hey, can I follow up with that? Just a couple
Yeah,
things.
we're actually over time,
Are we close?
but short little bit, buddy.
Sure. Okay. You know, the power of art. You know, and having art in those spaces, and you don't have to be an artist like you said, Tomas. But I've got to experience just recently being in a space where we were all just vibing out to indigenous artists, to music, and it was playing on this stereo. I was down in Phoenix actually, and I had this moment where I turned around and I seen all of us, and you know, we were dancing and vibing out, we were shooting hoops, and it was just like a scene I've never experienced before in my life. There's so much social disconnect amongst each other, and how important it is to have that socializing. You know, we show up to powwows, you know, and but it's a contest. You know, it's all a contest, and we don't have them just to have them and have those spaces. And it was so beautiful just experiencing that. And I encourage just, you know, within the communities creating those things. And that's my plan. And I just, you know, promise to show up. I know, Gene, we're in that group, and I've been just made that promise to myself, you know, to show up and create those opportunities, create those environments that we can really flourish and be happy and celebrate. Innate and of course our women who've been holding it down for forever, you know, the last couple of generations. So Wopila, and to all the men who are doing that. And you see me, I was tearing up, and automatically I started getting fidgety in my seat because being able to have all this, I wish I had it when I was younger, because honestly I would have saved a couple of my friends' lives if I had the right words. And um, just things, you know, and I have shame from that, but you know, something that I'm healing from, and I know that we have that connection still. So Wopila Jean and Wopila Tanka Tomas for all the good words.
Wopila, love you, bro.
Love you, brother.
Hey, for both of you guys, you know, just thank you for having the ability to talk about our arts, you know, our hearts expression, you know, and talk, you know, and share tears, you know, true, you know, from your soul, from your spirit, you know, and I thank you. Congratulations on the birth of your daughter.
Yeah, I
Holy,
wanted to say that.
holy.
Thank you.
Ah,
Thank you.
man.
So
No wonder why
beautiful, bro.
you're talking so much. You got that story, man, because you got so much
Jeez.
just built up, and you just want to share it with the world. But you have a voice. You have a voice, and it needs to be heard. Each of you.
Hold on. Mm-hmm.
So let your voices, both of your voices, be heard, and continue on. My brothers or my nephews, you know, and any way I can support you in your endeavors, in your journey as well, you know. And with the Native Wellness Institute too, we support our young men, um, and their journeys, because we want to have that healthy relationships, and with our communities and with the world. And we need more men to be present. More men to be present. So thank you for your words, your stories, and your presence. I want to continue on this conversation. This isn't the end. Like I told my brothers earlier, this the conversation will continue on because it needs to, and so with that, with before we end this here right now, I just want to say thank you, Gunachish, for the human beings and the men who you are. So with that,
Thank you, brother.
so as we're coming to a close here, it's just been I know we've gone over time. Oh gosh, but there's still so much to say, and I want to recognize our sisters, Keith Kleish, how he stated it right before earlier. Just we hold our sisters and our women up in honor, and we got to get our men healed. We got to get our men involved and present. I want to acknowledge Sakara Dunlap, who she they said it was a suicide, but and her death. I just a young soul sister who died way too young, and during this time, just want to acknowledge her and her spirit and all those other sisters out there and our relatives. Hang in there with us, ladies, women. Hang in there with us. I know you've held it up for so long, and I thank you. I can't express that more, but there's healthy men out there. We're doing the best that we can, but we need more out. We need men to be present. We need men to show up. We need men to show up. And so, with that, the Native Wellness Institute. We've been sponsored by the Noise Foundation, Native NICWA, National Indian Child Welfare. Let's keep our ancestral wisdoms alive, pass it on, keep the spirit alive. But love yourselves. So with that, signing off for now. Thank you, Konachish. Brothers, see you soon. Bless.
Doksha, everybody.
Oi.
See you all later.
Ah.
Peace. Thank you.